This is cs952, Introduction to Web Technologies and Design, and when we last left off we had added our image carousel, which really spiffed up the home page. Now we've got some moving images there on our home page. I went ahead and commented out the H3 and the paragraph text because I like the clean look of just the images by themselves. Let's see what this looks like in Chrome. But if you want to have the text in there that says something about what's on the images, and by all means go ahead and use whatever approach you want. We're including just 3 images in our carousel, which is what we have by default. If you want to add more than 3 images, then you would just need to copy the div that holds all of the code for each image. So if I'm back here in Dreamweaver, we have this containing div that says carousel inner. And then inside of that, right, we had 3 divs that were exactly the same. If I wanted to add in a new image, I would just select that code, copy it, hit enter to give myself a new line, right click and choose paste, and now I would have 4 images on my site. I don't need 4 images. We're not going to keep this change, but let's go back to, I'm going to close this. Dreamweaver's going to say, do you want to save changes? Nope. Let's go back to our web browser. And let's switch to our media page. Let's go to our media page. In our media page, we like this. What I want us to do is focus on the audio player. So as we reduce the size of our media page, remember when we hit our medium breakpoint, these 2 elements here, our video and our audio, they're going to stack one on top of each other because that's what Bootstrap does, right? We think in terms of having unlimited vertical space but limited horizontal space. So as we reduce the size of our screen, our content gets stacked one on top of each other. And the size of our movie always stays proportional because we're using the Bootstrap responsive video container. That Bootstrap responsive video embed is the thing that makes sure that our video always scales itself and always fits in the size that we need it. Now, if we come down here, we can see here's our little audio player tucked in down here. It's looking really good. Our problem is the appearance of this audio player is determined by what web browser we're using. So if we go back and I'm going to open up my, we were just on the media page, right? Let's scroll down to our media page. And throughout the class, I've been saying let's preview in Chrome. Let's see what happens if we preview in Firefox. Okay. I'm going to resize my image here a little bit. So same page in Firefox. You'll notice that the audio player looks slightly different. Here's the audio player in Firefox, and here's the audio player in Chrome. Pretty much the same, slightly different. Now let's go back to Dreamweaver and let's preview in Internet Explorer. Now in Internet Explorer, we get this goofy error message, and it takes up way too much room. Unsupported audio type or invalid file path. How could that be? Let's allow blocked content to start off with. That's a glitch in Internet Explorer. Next thing we're going to see is that the audio player in Internet Explorer is huge. We can't really get the audio player to fit on the whole page. For some reason, the folks at Microsoft, when they made their web browser, they decided to make their version of the audio player twice as big as what we have in Chrome or in Firefox. So we want to come up with some way so that our audio player is going to look the same regardless of whether we're using it on Chrome or Firefox or Internet Explorer. And we have a solution to this, and the solution is jQuery. So let's switch back to Dreamweaver. And we've got our media page open. So let's switch back to our media page. I have already provided for us the tools that we need to fix this problem with the display of our audio player. I'm going to open up, drag out my Files panel again. And if we look in our tutorial folder, and if we look under our jQuery folder, and if we look in CSS, we have another piece of CSS called audioplayer.css. So we're going to do the same thing we did with FancyBox. I'm going to drag my audio player CSS over to my main CSS folder. Dreamweaver asks, do we want to update links? And we say yes. In our JavaScript folder, I have a little bit of code called audioplayer.js. I'm going to drag that over. And Dreamweaver asked, do we want to do an update? And we're going to say yes. And as before, I've got a little bit of script here that we need. And it says audio player script. So I'm going to double click on that, which is going to open that script up for us so we can copy it. And we can close our files window. We don't need these. And I'm going to reset beginner so I get that same nice layout. Okay, so let's switch back to our media page. So we need to add in the CSS for our audio player, and we're only going to do it on the media page because we're not planning on adding this audio to every single page. This is the only page where we're going to be using this audio feature. If we were going to be using it on other pages, we could do it in our template, but I think this is just going to be for this page only. So there's a special spot on this page where we can add in code that we need in the head of the document. Where we're putting all of our CSS before has been up here, right? But this area is all locked down. We can't change it. Now this is a little bit tricky. If we look on line 22, there's a line of code that says instance begin editable. You know, instance begin editable, this is where we always found that placeholder content, right? And if I look down here, once I highlight that in my status bar, it says instance begin editable. So you wouldn't necessarily know it by looking at it. But this is actually a place where we can start to make changes. So if I click right after the end of instance begin editable and I hit the enter key, I can add code. But you have to look for it. There's no big placeholder content here that says, hey, add more code here. You need to look for this code that says instance begin editable name equals head. And what are we going to add? We're going to add in the CSS for our audio player. So I'm just going to drag that over. And there we have that. So we've got our CSS in the head. Now we're going to scroll on down and recall that in the bottom we had this instance begin editable script add to add additional script to our page. And this is where we're going to add the JavaScript, right? We're keeping all of our JavaScript here at the bottom. So if I go to my JavaScript, I'm going to drag over my audio player. And I'm just going to put it right here between my instance begin editable and end. I'll go ahead and hit refresh. And we need to copy over our text. So I have this little bit of text here, and I can see, oh, I already had my, I'd already copied that part over. All we really need is this second part here. I'm going to right click and choose copy. The first part we already have, JavaScript audio player min. Click here, hit enter, and hit paste. And then I had a little line of comment right that says audio player, so I'm going to drag it over, right click, choose copy, and I'm going to hit enter and hit paste. So this helps me remember what this is for. It's pretty obvious it's for audio player. But we're good to go now. So let's refresh. Now let's preview our page in a web browser. Preview in Chrome. You want to save changes? Yep. Now our audio player looks a little bit more exciting. Yep, this is what it looks like in Chrome. Let's go see what this page looks like in Firefox. This is what the page originally looked like. I'm going to hit F5 to refresh the page, and now we have the exact same audio player. Now let's go to our troublesome Internet Explorer. Looks pretty goofy, not acceptable at all. I'm going to hit F5 to refresh the page, and now we've got the exact same audio player. So we're using jQuery to restyle that audio player so that it looks consistent across all different browsers. So this concludes working with the jQuery audio player and adding jQuery to our website.